はい。
All right, I think we are good to start. So hi everyone, welcome to the second panel of our panel series. Today we're having our amazing Japanese solvers. We're all really brilliant. And now I'll give it to Byron.
Hello, good morning in Tantan. Good evening to our esteemed Japanese solvers. My apologies for slight in positioning here. As you may know, I'm Byron Calver. I've been to a number of world championships over the years, and I'm now the word search champion of 2021. But this panel is not about me though. I've got that later this week. This panel is about our esteemed Japanese puzzle solvers, many of whom have won a number of things more impressive than a word search. And we're going to get to know them a little better this morning. So first, I would just like to ask each member of the panel to please briefly introduce yourself. What's your age? What do you do for a living, and so forth. So we'll start with, and my apologies if I butcher the pronunciation. It was tricky in rehearsal. Ryotaro Chiba.
Thank you. So I'm Ryotaro Chiba. I'm 20, currently a second-year student at the University of Tokyo, studying astronomy. And I'm the current club president of the University of Tokyo Puzzle Club.
Wonderful. And can Endo now on to a recent champion of events, and Ken Endo?
Okay. My name is Ken Endo, age 28. I started competing in 2011 and my first WS+PC was in 2013. And apart from competing, I'm contributing to the puzzle book Kota, and lately I was working on the new launching Japanese puzzle site.
Oh, lovely. And now next is Hideaki Jo.
Hi, I'm Hideaki Jo. I'm 37 years old and I'll be 38 tomorrow.
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
Yes, and I'm an office worker and I teach mathematics mainly to high school students. Thank you.
Fantastic. And Kota Morinishi, last but certainly not least.
Hi, I'm Kota Morinishi, 32 years old. My occupation is office worker and system engineer. From 2010, I participated World Sudoku Championship, and then in WSC, I won 4 times. Thank you.
Very impressive. Okay, so now that we've gotten a little bit of info about you, let's start with the hard-hitting questions. So in turn, I'm going to stick with the order that I start with because it's alphabetical by one of the names, and that anyway. So in that spirit, Ryotaro, when and how old were you when you started solving Sudoku and puzzles?
Okay, so might be a boring answer, but I don't quite remember. Since Sudokus began popular in around early 2000s, but I was born in 2001. So even before I was born, Sudokus were fairly popular in Japan. But I've always liked solving mathematics problems, and especially the puzzly ones you often see in mathematical Olympiads. So liking for puzzling naturally came to me from that type of stuff.
Oh, very interesting. Yeah, the Math Olympiad scene really, I think, is a good way for people to get into that kind of thing. And how about you, Ken?
Okay. I started about I was 5 or 6 years old when I first met Sudoku. Very easy one. And it was the start of my long journey.
Yeah, 6 years old. That's a nice early start. Best way to start a long journey is to begin it early. That way, when you get to the end of it, you might not. That way, when you get to the pinnacle, you aren't as old, I guess. And Hideaki, how about?
I found a puzzle magazine by Nikori at the bookstore in 2002. At the same time, I found an announcement about the Japanese National Puzzle Championship on the internet and learned about WPC there. Since I had always liked competitions, I instantly became interested in WPC and start from solving puzzles. Thank you.
It's a very quick start. Go right from 0 to 100 there. Kota, how about you?
About 20 years ago, I'm about 12 years old. And I found some books at the bookstore. Then I start solving. And the books is not Nikori, but other Japanese magazines. So these includes Sudoku and Japanese word puzzle.
Oh, very neat. So my next question to each member of the panel in turn is, how often do you solve? And when you solve, what platforms do you use? Are there particular websites or good old-fashioned pencil and paper? Or so, Ryotaro, let's start with you.
Okay.
How often do you solve?
So competitively, I solve quite frequently. I try to participate in online puzzle competition as much as possible, as like Puzzle Grand Prix, Sudoku Grand Prix, Logic Masters India, Puzzle Duel, and like everything along the lines of them. And I for Grand Prix, I tend to practice for it seriously by looking for similar puzzle, the same puzzle type that has appeared before in the same competition and also national competitions. But for the ledger purpose, I used to buy puzzle magazines, but I don't buy them as often as before, because my Twitter feed contains a lot of puzzle authors, and they produce a lot of puzzles and send to the timeline. So I often get a lot of puzzles, even so that even I can't do them all. So for the ledger purpose, I'm satisfied with solving the puzzles on my Twitter timeline. But one exception is Kota magazine. Ken and Co. Ken mentioned, and Ken and Co. is producing annually. That magazine contains puzzle type that doesn't appear anywhere else, and that's pretty rare. So I annually buy them and solve them.
Yeah, Kota magazine is, before I ask Ken the question myself, I'm going to just flatter him a bit, because Kota is incredible. I hadn't gotten my hands on them until the 2019 championship, and that is just a wealth of great puzzles. It's literally how I learned to solve castle walls. So, Ken, with that aside, how often do you solve, and what platforms do you engage with?
Thank you for good words for Toketa in advance. Okay, Ryotaro has said so much about puzzle competitions, so in adding to it, I think I use Puzzle Square and Grandmaster Puzzles and Puzzle Portal in Logic Master Deutschland and many other puzzle books I can get in Japan. So I think I solve about 30 or 40 in a day on average, I think.
Wow, that's impressive. That's real dedication there. Next, we've got Hideaki. How often do you solve, and what sources or platforms do you make use of?
As Ken Ryotaro said, I participate in most contests of Sudoku and Puzzle Grand Prix, Logic Masters India and Germany, and some other internet sites. In addition, I solve puzzle books on paper on the commuter train, about 30 minutes or 1 hour per day. Yes.
Oh wow, good solid routine.
Yes.
And Kota, how about you?
I solve almost every day, and I like to solve puzzles on the paper. And these days, I start to buy and solve grandmaster puzzles. And when I commute to my office by train, I often solve puzzles. This is the same as Hideaki.
Yeah, I kind of miss commuting just because I was solving more puzzles when I had nothing else to do on the train. But yeah, Grandmaster are also a great source there. I've got a bunch of the books. So our next question, to each of you, when did you start competing in the World Puzzle Championship and World Sudoku Championship? How did you do? And what are your short and long-term goals at present? So let's start again with Ryotaro.
Okay, so well, although I began competitive puzzle solving in 2014, I only started practicing seriously since 2019 because I've got a personal printer and I became able to print out the practice puzzles. Before that, I used the printer at my school, and wasting school equipment was not a good idea. But yeah, since 2019, I began practicing seriously, and I found myself at the Japanese B team at World Puzzle Championship in 2019, and I did much better than I expected. I expected to finish somewhere around 20 or 30th place, but I finished at 12th place unofficially. So in reference to that, my goal is probably, well, to finish somewhere officially, because A team's score is the only one that officially counts. So yeah, that must be my goal. And also, I've never been to playoffs, and that's the playoffs seems so much fun from the outside. So at least once in my career, I want to play in WPC or Puzzle Grand Prix playoff.
Yeah, that's a very, very good pair of goals. Get on the A team, which is more challenging in Japan than most countries.
Exactly. But there might be a chance if you keep trying.
Yeah, get to the playoff, which is slightly harder. Only slightly.
Well, really?
Yeah,
I don't see. Yeah.
I might be giving the rest of the world too much credit here. But yeah, the playoff, speaking from personal experience, is it's very high pressured, very high tension experience, but it's really unique and puzzling, I would say.
Oh yeah, we tend to like that types of high pressure situation, don't we?
So some of us just perform better when the pressure is on, and then there's me. So next we have Ken. When did you start competing in the World Puzzle Championship and World Sudoku Championship? How did you do the first time, and what are your current short and long-term goals?
Okay, my first WS+PC is, as I said, 2013 in China. That was my first trip to foreign countries. And my result was around 15th place in 50th place in WSC and 6th place in WPC. But unofficially, I was in the second team of Japan at that time. So I think I have improved so much especially in Sudoku. And my goal is, well, I just want to improve my skills, both in Sudoku and puzzles.
That's the purest goal of all right there. Just get better and better, and
yeah,
and then whatever your result is after that, it's the best you did. I think that's the best way to look at everything, because you can't control any individual event. Anyway, Hideaki, how are you? Hideaki, we know you said you started competing with the Japanese Puzzle Championship very soon after after you began solving. When did you start at the World Puzzle Championship and World Sudoku Championship? How did it go, and what are your short and long-term goals?
I participated in WPC in 2006 in Bulgaria for the first time and placed 17th. My first playoff was the second WSC next year, 2007. Yes, and my short-term goal is to stay on the A team of Japan. This is not easy at all for me because there are so many strong players in Japan. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's as good a goal as any. Just stay on, because I mean, just in this panel alone, we've got 4 strong competitors, and it's one of those situations. Look to the left, look to the right. It's going to be hard for everyone to make it, but I hope you all do. No offense to any other Japanese solvers who may be watching. Kota, so when did you start competing at the World Puzzle Championship, World Sudoku Championship level? How did it go for you, and what are your goals?
Okay. In 2010, I participated my first World Sudoku Championship, and this WSC was my first world competition, including online contests. But sorry, I don't remember my result in 2010. My goal is to keep my status and level, and especially to keep fighting at the playoffs in World Championship, in both World Championship.
Very, very nice goals. I guess the goal to a degree is just keep putting up results that you will remember. So my next question is related to Sudoku vis-a-vis other logic puzzles. So regarding Sudoku, some puzzle solvers are really good at Sudoku, but not at the greater variety of logic puzzles. Some are really good at the variety, but don't really have the specialization in Sudoku. How do you? So for each panelist, the question is how are you so good at both things, and why can some solvers be good at Sudoku but others not, and vice versa? And Ryotaro, I understand that you have a unique perspective on this one.
So as I said, I finished at 12th place at my first WPC, but at the same year as WSC, I finished at somewhere around 90th or 100th place, and that pretty much signifies how I doesn't compare to the other three at the skill of Sudoku. But since then, I started practicing Sudoku seriously as well. And I think I'm somewhere around world number 30 or 40 in Sudoku right now. And what I found most challenging about Sudokus is that I can't really tell which numbers are missing from each row, column, or boxes without checking each digit. Apparently, a lot of top solvers can't do it instantly by just looking at it, and in a flash they can tell which numbers are missing, but somehow I couldn't and I can't do it even now. And that be able to tell which numbers are missing from the set of numbers is what separates from Sudoku, a good Sudoku solvers and not so good solvers.
Perhaps a better way to see it would be it separates the really good Sudoku solvers from the great ones.
Well, if you say it more nicely, I guess.
But that is a good topic to discuss. I'd like to take a little break from the current question to just see how the rest of the panel feels about the process of elimination in Sudoku. Does it come naturally to you to scan and just go, okay, these are the numbers that are missing in this line or this box or whatever? Ken, how have you experienced that particular sort of technique in Sudoku?
I think I find the rest of digits in naturally, but I think I'm quite slow. I think I can't do fast like Kota.
So there's a speed aspect to this. Because he's directly addressed Kota, I'm going to go directly to Kota on this now. Then I'll get back to Hideaki. Kota, how do you feel on the topic of the process of eliminating the numbers in a row? Oh, and figuring out what the remaining digits are in the row or that aren't in. Does it come easy or?
Yeah, I don't have any strategies, but I practice to solve so many Sudokus. So then I might get the skill.
Yeah, practice builds it. And Hideaki, how about you?
Hi. I can see the two or three unfilled left cells at a glance usually, yes, but sometimes make a mistake. And if the 9 digits 1 to 9 are used, I can see at a glance. But in the alphabet Sudoku or other 9 symbols, just no. it's very hard to see the 2 or 3 left symbols.
That's a very good point. When the set of objects being placed in the grid changes, you lose sort of that muscle memory of sorts. That muscle may not be the right term for, but the instinct of being able to go, okay, what's missing? I know what's missing. I've seen these numbers millions of times before. So back to the going back to the previous question, Ken, how are you so good at these things? Both of these things.
Okay, but in my early days, I was not good at Sudoku and Latin squares types. But in puzzle competition, if I finish all of the other types like loops or shadings, so I have to solve Sudoku or Latin squares. So I get accustomed to it because of that. So I think I'm get familiar with these types from like skyscrapers. So, and at some point I noticed I'm comfortable with even classic Sudoku, but I'm not sure when I become like that.
Well, that's a good way to learn. You just solve all the other puzzles, and you're gonna have to deal with the ones you aren't so happy with. Hideaki, how about you? But how are you so good at both these things?
Hi. I'll talk about my own case. My favorite puzzle type is Kakuro, and I also like other puzzles that use calculations. Such puzzles appear both in WSC and WPC, and I believe this is my strength. Thank you.
Fair. That makes perfect sense. Let's go into the math. Well, Kota, how about you? How can
Okay.
how?
How? Okay. How? Not to escape from puzzles which I don't like, and many Japanese puzzle books were useful to me, and in Japan, there are many books contains just a kind of puzzle. For example, Sudoku or Nikori puzzle style. So, the puzzle book with just a kind of puzzle makes cause me fundamental puzzle skill.
Yes,
This was very useful.
That's a very good process for developing a skill. Just you get one of those books with 100 Yagellon or 100 Nurikabe, 100 ripple effect, whatever, and you just jam those. By the end of it, you're going to be better at that particular type than you were before, or you're going to be very unhappy. Either of the two. So I kind of neglected the other half of this question, which is, why do you think some people are better at one type than others? At what? So I'm just going to hop back to Ken, since I got a little focused on his particularly being good at one or the other. Why do you think that some people are better at Sudoku than other puzzles, or vice versa?
Okay, I think Sudoku requires special training to get better. I think it's a bit different from other puzzle types.
Yeah, that's a very solid point. Sudoku is distinct among puzzles. to an extent. Hideaki, any thoughts on the difference between like puzzles and Sudoku? Why some people would be better at one than the other, or vice versa?
Same as Ken. Yeah, Sudoku is very large, and so there are 81 cells in Sudoku usually, and to fill in all cells takes enough. It takes much time. So this is hard, I think. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good point to just kind of look at the logistical aspect of it. That you're filling in a lot of cells in the puzzle, and that can, compared to something like finding a loop, for instance, where you can just kind of try and get it all in one go sometimes. Kota, how about you? Do you have any thoughts on the distinction of what makes it easier for some folks to do Sudoku and some folks to do puzzles?
I think Sudoku requires just one particular skill, and otherwise puzzle requires many kinds of skills. and this situation, in this situation, almost players match each style. So
that's one way to make sure that you stay on top in both sides of the ledger. Just keep solving a lot of Sudoku and a lot of other puzzles. I'm going to loop back briefly to Ryotaro, because while we discussed his own experience, is there anything that you personally find distinguishes why people would be better at one or the other? Like,
okay, so I kind of echo what Hideaki said. Filling out 81 numbers is quite a task, and furthermore, in general, in number placement puzzle, it's quite difficult to say tweak a solution a bit, because I think you all has an experience where there are only two numbers are contradictory, but in order to fix that, you have to change like 10 or 20 numbers to get a valid solution. But in other puzzle types like loop puzzle, essentially it's quite easy to tweak a solution and somehow manage to get a solution. And I think that part might be the reason why Sudoku and other number placement puzzle in general has a kind of different feel to them, and that might be one of the reasons that separates Sudokus from the rest.
That's a very, very keen observation, very astute. It's just, I've definitely been there with trying to learn to tweak a Sudoku when it's broku at the end.
That doesn't work when when you want the most.
Yeah, you get a loop, you just go, okay, I'm erasing a part of this loop, I'm gonna try and make it do a different thing. So next, the next question, and this one might not be quite as optimal for you, Ryotaro, is, as a person who's good at both puzzles, do you enjoy Sudoku or other puzzles more? Or like,
well, let's say I enjoy puzzles more because I have much better records at them. I always get frustrated at me so much when I have to go through every numbers to deduce which numbers are missing from each row. And it feels like such an obvious and trivial task, but it takes like forever to actually deduce the remaining digit. And at the same time, I often get it wrong, and that part I don't enjoy about Sudokus. Because but loop puzzles or object placement puzzles, you don't really have to care about it. So that's probably the reason why I enjoy puzzles more, just because I can't do Sudokus faster.
That's a valid reason. Like that. Like if you find a puzzle type actively frustrating to solve, then Ken, do you enjoy Sudoku or puzzles more?
Well, for me, Sudoku is a part of puzzle, one genre of puzzle. So even if they requires another training, still I don't want to distinguish them. So I enjoy them both equally.
Very diplomatic answer. You don't play favorites. I can appreciate that. That's how you get to be so good at everything, I suppose. Hideaki, do you enjoy Sudoku or the general class of puzzles more?
I like both of them, but I prefer puzzles because of its variety. As Ken said, Sudoku is only a subset of puzzles. And in the Sudoku competition, for example, if I finish one puzzle, the next puzzle is always a Sudoku. The puzzle competition, no, drawing groups, shading, number placement, and so on. Thank you.
That's a very fair point. There could be a certain monotony to the Sudoku grind, as it were. Yeah, there's more variety. Kota, how about you? Do you enjoy Sudoku or puzzles more as a person who's very good at both of them?
Yeah, I enjoy both of them, and I'm not going to have a favorite puzzle type. So then in the contest, I will not be confused to remain as a particular kind of puzzles.
Very, very reasonable. Staying with just why choose? Do all the puzzles. So this kind of leads into question 7, which is what is your favorite Sudoku and or puzzle type? I could actually split that down a little favorite Sudoku type and favorite puzzle type. Let's start with favorite puzzle type overall, though. Ryotaro, what is your favorite puzzle type?
Okay, so for my defense, I guess I don't actually hate Sudokus. I'm frustrated at myself rather than the puzzle. So it's not like I dislike Sudokus. As everyone says, I don't have a particular favorite puzzle type. Although in a pragmatic sense, I like the puzzle types that I can achieve the maximum efficiency on puzzle competitions. And for me, the strategy I'm the best at is just trying random thing and see if they work. And where a puzzle type that has a good mix of intuition and logic seems to fit me, such as Snake, Laser, Slitherlink, Mashu, that sorts of line drawing stuff I tend to be better at. And yeah, that might be in a as a from a perspective of a competitor, these types must maybe my favorite type.
That's a very, very sensible answer. There is something to that class of intuition and tying in with logic puzzles that makes for, I would say, a very distinct solving experience.
Yeah.
I don't particularly care for them myself, but I respect them for what they are. Ken, how about you? You said you don't play favorites, but in your heart, is there like one puzzle type you particularly like to see?
I don't have so much. Of course, I preferred non-Latin types in my early days, like loops, shadings, dissections, but I don't take care so much these days. But at least as long as it's created for human to solve, I mean, logical ones, okay, intuitive ones also okay, but if it requires too much trial and errors, I sometimes feel it's for computer to solve, not for me. But except that, otherwise it's everything I like.
That's a very valid response. You know, it has to be a puzzle that feels like human solving skill accomplishes things rather than having to just start guessing around and hoping. Once you get into that realm of oh no, I don't have a computer to feed this into to deal with it, so it is no longer practical. Hideaki, how about you? You mentioned that you are like me a kakuro connoisseur.
Yes.
So,
My favorite puzzle type is Kakuro for the following two reasons. First, I like calculations and solving techniques of Kakuro. For example, estimating the maximum and minimum, or spotting the difference of rows and columns, and so on. Yes. And the second reason is from the competitive viewpoint. As you might know, there are so many strong players in Japan, but I think most of them are better at geometric puzzles, loops, shading, or other intuitive types. I have an advantage because I'm good at Kakuro and other number placement puzzles. Thank you.
I can very much appreciate that. That's my bread and butter too. So, Kota, how about you? Yeah. What are your favorites? What's your favorite puzzle type?
My favorite type is classic Sudoku. And there are many classic Sudoku books in the world and in Japan. And this is the most puzzle type I solved. And though there are many good Japanese puzzle players, but I often beat them in classic Sudoku.
That's a very good reason to pick something as your favorites. That there's two benefits there. You've got a strong advantage over basically the world, or most of it, in classic Sudoku, and also just as you mentioned, the abundance. If you pick an obscure puzzle type as your favorite, you almost have to start writing them yourself to make more of them. But if you pick good old classic Sudoku, you will literally never run out. So maybe drilling down a little bit into the Sudoku side of things, we know what Kota's favorite type of Sudoku is by process of deduction. Hideaki, is there a favorite type of Sudoku in particular that you like?
I like Kira Sudoku and Avo Sudoku or other calculation types. Yes.
That makes sense. I suppose I should have seen that coming. Ken, how about you? I know we didn't really. I know like the whole Latin square side of things wasn't really your jam for a while, but is there any particular kind of Sudoku that you've warmed up to more?
I don't. I'm trying not to say like or not like, but if speaking of what types I'm good at or not, I think I'm good at not classical ones. I don't good at classic Sudoku and more classical rules. The more I'm not good at. So similar to Hideaki, if calculation required, I'm good at them.
Yeah, that's a very reasonable way to look at it. It's not about liking and disliking. It's just how it can just be about like which ones are you best at. So yeah, very sensible approach. Yotaro, how about you? Favorite Sudoku type?
Okay, so pretty similar to what Ken said. What I do best is non-classic ones, but what separates me from the others is that I'm not particularly good at calculation as well. And from my experience, my best Sudoku variant tend to be the ones that incorporate even odd rules for two reasons. One, marking the parity of each cell has kind of shading feel to it, like Battenberg, where you have the shading puzzle with almost exactly the same that uses exactly the same symbol in Puzzle Duel. And two, if you marked all of the parities of each cell, then you only have to look for the remaining number from 4/5 numbers rather than 9, and that makes it much easier for me to find the remaining number. So yeah, I'm best at even odd types.
That makes a lot of sense. That if the number elimination is your issue, just knock out more of the numbers to start with.
Yeah. Problem solved.
So let's move on to the question of I would say a logical versus intuitive. Because I think we're in that sort of ballpark where I'm curious, are you a more logical solver or a more intuitive solver? How do you feel about guessing during competition, for instance? Do you guess much during competition? And does it differ between Sudoku and puzzles? Yotaro, I'll start with you. Logical and intuitive solving, and how much guessing do you do?
Okay, so in terms of guessing, let's say a lot, because frankly, I don't particularly like sitting and not moving your pencil and thinking. So if it is absolutely required to find a say pretty difficult logic, I will try, but I enjoy trying a bunch of different things and see if any one of it work. So in puzzles like loop types and shading types, I tend to do that a lot. In number placement, I don't really I don't use trial and error as much as the other types because it's quite hard to mark which cell did you make an assumption, but I try to efficiently mark where I made the assumption as possible. Yeah, so the answer is I guess a lot.
Well, that's a very thorough answer. You even covered Philip's question in the chat there. Is it just like are you just unstructured guessing and tweaking it as you need, or are you trying to keep in mind the spots where you assume things for bifurcation? Ken, how about you? Do you consider yourself more a logical solver or an intuitive solver? And how much guessing and intuition do you do?
Okay, well, I'm not sure because I'm just choosing better way to be fast. So, so in easy puzzles, I'm just logical. But and in harder puzzles, I use more guessing, I think. And when I guess, sometimes I find another restriction while guessing and return to logical steps again. Sometimes not, and just spot an answer and just check it. So my guess is sometimes just tweaking, sometimes trial and errors.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And if not all puzzles are the same, and you got to use what the puzzle benefits most from if you want to get it done fast. Hideaki, how about you? More logical solver, more intuitive? How much guessing do you do, and what's it like?
I first try to solve by logic, but I moved to trial and errors when I got stuck. About 20 or 30 seconds in puzzle competition and 1 or 2 minutes in Sudoku competitions. Trial and errors is helpful to find the strong constraints. So as Ken said, if after I find some strong constraints, then I move to logic, and so on.
That's very disciplined to have like a set amount of time in mind for jumping from logic to trying into trial and error. Or that's a really good systematic way of approaching it. How about you, Kota?
Okay. Yeah, as many players know, I'm a logical solver. So if I use try and error, the puzzle or contest, this puzzle or contest, I fail this contest or puzzle. So, but in few kind of puzzles, I must be a intuitive solver. For example, number link, Honey Islands, and curve data.
Oh, very, very reasonable spots to. You gotta choose. Those are definitely ones where intuition can pay off, and yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate the decision to focus on being a logical solver, because when you don't, the less you use trial and error, the less you have error, I guess. So I'm going to shift now toward the question of community. How did your community and Sudoku puzzle culture, like magazines, authors, clubs, and such, influence your experiences as a Sudoku or puzzle solver? Yotaro, we'll start with you again.
Okay, so I've been in a lot of puzzle community in Japan, both online and offline. In terms of offline community, I've been a part of. As I said, I'm currently a member of the University of Tokyo Puzzle Club, and during my high school years, I was a member of a puzzle club at Komaba High School as well. And both those schools are known to be a powerhouse at puzzling world, as out of 12 Japanese participants in WS+PC last year, I think 9 or 10 was a member of University of Tokyo Puzzle Club, and 3 out of 4 of the B team was a graduate of Komaba High School. And I've been influenced a lot from the classmates, both at my high school and the university. And in terms of online community, as I said, there are a lot of puzzle-related users on Twitter, and a lot of them participate, are regular participants of puzzle competitions as well, and they talk about how they did at the competitions and etc. And also they discuss about which puzzle, this puzzle had this interesting logic, and this logic might be generalized to this thing, and so on. And I've been influenced a lot from those online discussions.
One of the real surprises from like discussing with you has been finding out about just how deep the Twitter puzzle scene really is because I think I only really paid much attention to puzzles on Twitter during Boss Rush season, and but to hear that there's just so much more going on there is really neat. Ken, how about you? How did your community and Sudoku puzzle culture influence your experiences?
Okay. In 2011, I entered university and came to Tokyo, and I met Kota and many others in the puzzle club. And yes, Kota introduced me to the Logic Masters India, and that was my first competition. So the community gave me great chance, I think.
That's a real step up, yeah. When you get to know someone who happens to be able to introduce you to that bigger community of that broader or world scene, in addition to everything going on in Japan, that's a very very important step. But so Hideaki, how about you? How did your experiences with the Sudoku and puzzle culture and community influence?
The puzzle club in Tokyo University was established probably after I graduated. So I was not a member of it. Let me talk about Twitter. Yes. There are so many Twitter users. There are so many puzzlers who use the Twitter, and as Ryotaro said, there are so many discussions about the competitions. After contest is over, some participants share how they feel about the contest or single puzzle, or some participants share solving time for each puzzle. This is useful and very exciting for me. Thank you.
That's a very good point. Just getting to see all that feedback about like what's going on with the different puzzles. Maybe there's a step if you missed. Probably rarely a step that you missed, Hideaki, but Kota, so you introduced Ken to Logic Masters India. How else did your experiences in the in Sudoku puzzle culture and the club of the University of Tokyo club that appears to have had a really massive impact on top Japanese solving? How did it all influence your experience?
Ken must be good puzzle and pseudo player, so I teach Logic Masters India, and after entering University of Tokyo in this club, I have some puzzle friends, and when I participated in my first World Sudoku Championship, I was youngest in Japan team. So I was taught from elder Japanese team members, including Hideaki, many things. But I may not teach younger players anything.
All right, I'm going to just shuffle over to another question from the chat that I hadn't noticed initially, and that's regarding team competitions. When it comes to team competitions, do you meet together to practice at all? And we'll start with Ryotaro.
Well, no. In terms of team playoffs, we don't have any practice session. I mean, before each World Puzzles and Sudoku Championship, the Japanese team has a meetup at one of the players' house, and they check each other's understanding of the rules set to the puzzle that appears. But in terms of practice puzzle, well, I've heard that Palmer Mebane makes a lot of practice puzzle for the US team, and the German team also has a lot of practice puzzle writers as well. But in Japan, we don't really have a person who regularly writes a practice puzzle. And for that reason, we don't really have a way to practice team rounds, because, there must be someone to create one in order to practice one. So yeah, and that might be the reason why we are suffering at the team playoffs.
That's a very very astute observation. I'm going to just check. I feel like that covered it pretty well, but I'm going to just ask just everyone else. Ken, Hideaki, Kota, anything you can add to that about the team competition side of things, and what other sort of practice you might have engaged in over the years relative to that?
No.
Okay, so
Nothing.
Oh wait, I have one thing in mind. While we suffer so much at puzzle team playoffs, we often do quite well at Sudoku playoffs. What's the difference between the performance between the two? I mean, the most 2 or 3 out of 4 participants are pretty similar, but somehow we often sink the puzzle team playoffs. But when the Sudoku team playoffs against China, what do you think is the difference between them? You can answer in Japanese as well. I'll translate.
Wonderful.
Do you have any idea? 数読とパズルでなんでメンバーが共通なのに数読には勝ててパズルでは勝てないんじゃみたいなことをちょっと疑問に思ってるんですけど、なんでかわかりますか？いや、これはその個人的な疑問です。This is my personal doubt. 日本語でもいいですよ。
簡単なんで英語で。
はい、
I think in Sudoku playoff, my performance is most important. Otherwise, in puzzle playoff, Ken's performance is most important.
Okay, and I think I'm always bad in playoffs. I think so. That was the problem. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's a perfect segue into my next question, which is, what is your impression about playoffs? How do you approach them, and how does pressure impact your performance? So I'll start with Ken in this case, since I don't think Yotalo's been in a playoff yet. So I'll begin with Ken.
Yeah, okay. Many of you may know me as one of the worst player in the playoffs. Well, to be frank, playoff is not necessary to decide the champion. Well, it's for the audience. So if the audience, people enjoy watching or solving, that's okay. That's enough.
That's a very reasonable perspective. The playoff is ultimately it's more about, you know, ending things with something exciting for everyone to observe. But Hideaki, how about you? What's your impression about the playoff?
I like playoffs as a spectator, but not as a player. And I advanced to the playoff in WS 2007 for the first time. At that time, I was the second in the preliminary rounds, but the final ranking was the seventh because I broke a single puzzle in the playoff. Such cases sometimes happen in the playoff, and I don't think this is fair. Yes, in the preliminary rounds, there are hundreds of puzzles, and the playoffs contains only 3 or 4 puzzles. So I don't think this is fair. However, the playoffs are fun as a spectator. I can see how top players solve, who finishes first, and so on.
Yeah, the spectator aspect is really fun, but you are correct that it's definitely less statistically significant, and the outcome is perhaps less indicative of the overall performance. But and Kota, what's your impression about playoffs?
Yeah, no pressure. Yeah, I like playoffs so much, but and I hear Hideaki's comment, and the experience of playoffs influences so much. So I have good experience in playoffs. I had
That's very reasonable. The experience you have in the playoffs is going to influence how you feel about them. My personal experience, playoffs have traditionally been a bit of a house of horrors when I get there. Trying to expand on this, how do you approach the playoff, and how does the pressure impact your performance? And how do you find the pressure particularly? You said it's no pressure for you. Probably because it's just Kota, I guess.
Kota, yeah. Just I have good image in my mind, so when I participate playoff, I think I'm good at playoff, and I'm a main lead actor in this room.
a good way to look at it.
So the image, so this image is very important for me.
Very reasonable approach. Cast yourself as the protagonist, and that's the person who usually wins, right? Hideaki, how about you? How do you? Is there a way you approach the playoff particularly? How does the pressure affect you?
To be honest, I'm not good at playoffs at all. I got too nervous. Yeah.
Very
Thank you.
reasonable. It's a very high pressure experience. And Ken, how do you approach them? How does pressure affect you?
Okay. Of course, I feel pressure, but I think in my case, it's not my main problem. Well, WPC playoffs are usually in the last day of the WSPC week. So in my case, physical condition is more problematic. Well, I'm exhausted already.
That's a very good point. There is definitely a lot of fatigue in the competition, especially with all the like side events and socializing as well. Like you use that brain all week, and then you have to try and wring the last drops of brilliance out for the playoff. Well, I'll loop back to Ryotaro as someone who has said his short-term goal is to make it to the playoff. What is your impression of the playoff, Ryotaro? How do you approach them?
So, from a perspective of an audience, it's like I really enjoy playoffs being broadcast as an entertainment. I mean, if blitz chess is so popular, then why can't puzzle speed solving be? Yeah, but I understand that we get too nervous at them. Personally, I'm also a person who's bad at nerve, since I'm really bad at shorter rounds, because in shorter rounds, in order to score XX% out of the total score, you have unavoidably have some puzzle you must solve in order to finish top 20 or 30 or something. And in that situation, I'm pretty bad. That situation came in the last round of 2019 WPC, when we had 3 crop keys, and
oh yes,
I was on a finishing pace, but the usual my inability to find a remaining number struck on the most important part of the competition, and I managed to broke the last puzzle.
Oh no.
Well, I was so disappointed to find Thomas Snyder, who was a place above me, finishing 10 minutes or so remaining, and I dropped from 10th place to 12th place. Yeah, but pressure aside, it's quite a exciting event, and well, there was a World Cup tournament in the WPC, and well, that encapsulates everything great about the playoffs. And I hope the World Cup or a similar style event continues from now on, because I love seeing the playoffs so much.
That was really good.
You finished the fastest in that crop key round, and you hopped over me. I remember dearly.
Oh, Talo is addressing Massus in the chat as the 11th place finisher. But yeah, that's true. The World Cup thing of 2019 was a very exciting way to sort of bring the playoff experience to everyone, and it kind of made that championship a bit of the best of both worlds. To have a big playoff style event, as well as as well as a little more focus on the overall performance. So there's another question in the chat from Philip Weiss. We've got about 15 minutes left in the scheduled panel time. For individual rounds, how do you feel about connected grids, like the 6 puzzles that were connected in 2019 with the round, as opposed to rounds with mixed individual puzzles? Philip is always sad that they mainly appear in team rounds. I am a big fan of connected grids, but I'd like to turn this question over to each of you. In Ryotaro, I'll start with you.
Oh, yeah, I'm a big fan as well. I enjoyed the roundabout puzzle a lot. Well, but as I said, I'm extremely bad with the pressure that I have to solve one. So if there is a sensible partial scoring system, I think it's fine, and it's great to incorporate such connected grids into individual rounds. But the setting up partial scoring system might be an extra work, and but if it is being implemented, I think it having one large connected puzzle in individual round is totally fine, and I will probably enjoy it.
Well, that makes sense. Ken, how do you feel about interconnected grids in individual rounds?
I like these types too, but one point is that there is, in most cases, I can see only one puzzle in such a round. It is similar to the playoff, and I can't escape from it. So when I stuck on, it's a big deal. And one more point, such a round tend to be short in time, so I can't change my strategy in my midway. So I think I have to prepare well in such a round.
That's a very, very good point. There's no escaping those tight individual rounds. Hideaki, how about you?
In general, I like connected grids, but I'm nervous before the start of such rounds, because if I break one puzzle, then no points at all. Thank you.
Yes, the cascading failure effect. Kota, how about you? How do you feel about such rounds?
And this is okay that 1 or 2 rounds will contain just one large puzzles. But this round has a big risk. So yeah, so I have experienced my score. My point is 0. Yeah,
We've all been to the Goose Egg Cafe to get that 0 on the score sheet. It stings, but fortunately, there's always more puzzles. We're at 10 minutes from the scheduled end. I'm going to shift over to your just lifestyle question now. What do you enjoy doing besides solving Sudoku and puzzles? Or do you have other hobbies? Is there even time for things between all the puzzles? Ryotaro, what do you enjoy doing for other hobbies?
Okay, so as I said, I enjoy watching chess, shogi, which is Japanese version of chess, and Go. That type of board games being played. And also, I don't really play it myself, but I like watching the games. And I also like watching animes, as you can tell from the post in the background. This is from a convention I've been last month. I participated as a a part of the university's anime anime related club, and I've distributed an anime themed puzzle at there. Yeah, I really like intersection between animes, movies, books, and puzzles. And the circle directly tends to create a lot of Star Wars related Scrabble and such, and I really enjoy creating those type of stuff.
Oh, that's really neat. Yeah, it's cool when you can make those sort of connections between like a bigger cultural property and the puzzle like realm as well.
But yeah.
Ken, I'm gonna just follow up with Ryotaro. And what are your favorite animes while we're
well, I don't know if people are familiar with cute girls doing cute things genre. The anime that is probably most popular among the ones I like is the Older Rabbit, but I'm not sure if people are familiar with it. Has people actually heard of the Older Rabbit?
It doesn't ring a bell to me, but I haven't watched enough anime. I'm still working on learning Japanese before I can try and I think engage much with it. Ken, so I'm gonna I'll let the chat respond if anyone's familiar with the Older Rabbit. Ken, I'm going to ask now, what do you enjoy doing besides solving Sudoku and puzzles? Do you have other hobbies?
Okay. Oh, I also like anime and it's the Older Rabbit. But and I also like music or sometimes a bit of games. Well, competing is sometimes serious one, so I want to relax in the other time. For example, in the next week of WS+PC, I almost solve nothing and relax and enjoy other hobbies.
That's very sensible. You can't always be in competition mode all the time. You definitely need that time to relax. So you like the Older Rabbit as well. Any other anime of choice for you?
I think I like similar types as Ryotaro.
Fair enough. And so you said music as well. What style of music do you like to?
It depends on time by time. Mainly Japanese rock style. Sometimes pop music.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
There's a solid rock scene over there. Hideaki, what do you enjoy doing besides solving Sudoku and puzzles?
I'm not a fan of animation so much. Yeah. And besides solving Sudoku and puzzles, I like competitive programming as my second hobby, which I started 3 years ago. I'm very glad to see that some top-class competitive programmers also take part in puzzle competitions.
Yeah, that's a very fitting second hobby choice because there is a lot of crossover between the two worlds. Some of the best in both sides. Let's do the other such thing. I tried getting into that world. I turned out to be really rubbish at computer programming. How about you, Kota? What do you enjoy doing for hobbies besides solving Sudoku and puzzles? Do you have any other hobbies?
Okay. I like watching sports games, especially baseball and golf. I think pro golf tournament resembles puzzle or Sudoku championship because the game period is very long. some nervous by 3 or 4 days. So, and golf and puzzle needs power and skill and delicateness and mentality.
So what was that? I didn't catch the last few words there. What did you say?
Yeah? Pardon?
What was the last thing you said there? I didn't quite catch it.
最後言ったこともう一回教えて。
My apologies.
Golf and puzzle needs power and skill and delicateness and mentality.
Ah, yes. Sorry, my apologies. He's there. So yeah, do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite player or team in baseball or golf?
Yeah, I don't play.
Okay, so we are just about at the close of this. So I'm just gonna throw it to each of you one more time to sort of wrap up. Is there anything else that you'd like to that you'd just like to say before we end this panel? Ryotaro, closing statement.
Closing statement. Well, what I observe is that people are probably not that there are a separation between the puzzle community on Twitter, which mainly use Japanese, and anywhere else around the world. So I hope I help to be a mediator between the two communities.
That's a very reasonable, a very noble aspiration. Ken, do you have any final things you'd like to say?
Okay. Thank you everyone for watching this. For these 2 years, I was happy to see your names on the competition results. Well, I think I can see you are well in this situation. So stay healthy. Let's meet in the next WSPC.
Yes, let's absolutely hope to stay well and meet for next WSPC. Hideaki, anything you'd like to add?
As a participant, I really say thanks to the organizers of this event. There are so many rounds, social events. I'm very happy. I hope there will be an on-site WSPC next year. Thank you.
You're very welcome, Hideaki. Kota, anything you'd like to say?
And thank you for preparing this event. And I hope I will meet you next year. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and I would like to thank the organizers, especially Tantan, for helping bring us together for this really insightful and informative discussion. I always feel like I've learned a lot in getting to hear from you at length. So yeah, I'd like to echo the panelists' sentiments, and I hope we can all meet next year in person at the World Sudoku Puzzle Championship. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day, or in our panelists' case, have a good evening.
Yeah, I would like to thank all the panelists for attending and all the audiences for listening. And we will have a panel on puzzle solvers later today or tomorrow for most of you. Check out the calendar on my site. I will see you there. Thank you all.